Welcome to the DAIDA Global Awards Ceremony 2021, organized and hosted by My Livable City, an international knowledge platform focused on urban sustainability and livability. I am Yamini Kumar, a fellow architect based in Bangalore, India, and part of the My Livable City team. I will be hosting the award ceremony today. The annual DAIDA Foundation Urban Thesis Global Awards aims to acknowledge and support master's graduates who, through their work, help improve the urban infrastructure and living conditions of vulnerable groups in rapidly developing countries. Next slide, please. Every year, DAIDA announces a theme for the awards. In 2020, the theme was Water and Development. The theme for this year was the Inclusive City. The award also intends to encourage students to investigate socially relevant issues. Next slide, please. Eligible participants are master's program students with either design or research components in subjects which are related to cities or urban environmental landscapes. The interest and response that the competition received last year had doubled from that of the previous year. DAIDA received 44 thesis submissions from 22 participating institutions from 6 countries. These submissions proposed ideas across 15 countries. From the 44 submissions, an international jury comprising of Mr. Shyam Khandekar, Ms. Melissa Navarra, and Mr. Claudio Ascioli Jr. shortlisted 12 finalists who presented their work to the jury. Next slide, please. Today, the first, second, and third prize winners will be announced and will be called upon to present their projects. The jury process will be further explained by Mr. Khandekar as the session progresses. Next slide, please. I'd like to first call upon Liesl Vivier, DAIDA board member, to speak about the DAIDA Foundation and its achievements over the past 4 years. Liesl is an architect and urban planner in Zimbabwe and the Netherlands. She is currently Deputy Manager of the City Development Department of the City of Almere in the Netherlands, where she is the lead designer for many large-scale regeneration and new town projects. She has been involved in projects across Europe, Asia, and Africa. Over to you, Liesl.
Thank you, Yamini. And on behalf of the DAIDA Foundation, I would like to extend a warm welcome to everybody joining us today at this award ceremony. I would like to take this opportunity to also tell you something a little bit more about the DAIDA Foundation. The foundation was set up about 4 years ago, and it has 5 board members. We are based in the Netherlands, but we have a global outreach. 3 of the board members are involved in urban development projects in the developing world. And that is Leo Lodder, who is a development economist. He is based in the Netherlands. Shyam Khandekar, also based in the Netherlands and also works in India. And myself, I'm based in the Netherlands and I originate from Zimbabwe. Also on the board, we have Stephen Sterk, who is a lawyer, and Siddharth Khandekar, who is a housing and real estate consultant in the Netherlands, but he is specialized in affordable housing. May I have the next slide, please? Our mission, DAIDA's mission, is to improve the living conditions of vulnerable citizens or groups of individuals in cities in the developing world, and also to improve the infrastructure of those cities. And when we mean groups of individuals, we mean, for example, a civic group that has identified an urban problem in a city and that would like to solve that problem. The support that we give is provided in the form of funds or in the form of donations. And these can be used to implement a project or to educate people. It can also be used to fund a research or to fund the spread of information, for example, via books or via films. And the applications we receive are often via people that we know and whom we trust. We don't have a huge controlling mechanism in place, so we often grant applications on the basis of trust. May I have the next slide, please? So these are the countries where we have projects that we support. In South America, we support a project in Peru. In Africa, we have 3 different locations where we have projects: in Egypt, in Kenya, and also in Zimbabwe. And in Asia, we have projects in India and more to the east in Thailand. May I have the next slide, please? Here you see a number of projects that DAIDA has supported in the past few years, and I would like to highlight a number of these. We have supported 2 projects of Pukar in Mumbai, India, the Youth Fellowship Program and the Journey Towards Dignity Program. The Youth Fellowship Program empowers young urbanites to address problems that they come across in their cities. And their problems are wide-ranging. For example, lack of medical services in their neighborhoods or lack of clean water, etc. And in this program, young urbanites receive training in their civic rights, so they learn who they can contact to address their problems and how they can solve them. And they are advised by different specialists, such as journalists and also lawyers. In Zimbabwe, we support a foundation called Streams of Hope, and DAIDA pays the school fees for 40 orphans there and also funds a sewing training program. So where young jobless urbanites can attend this program and learn how to sew and become tailors so that they can support themselves. In Kenya, we donated funds for a community-based organization called Mustard Seed, and they built a multi-purpose community center in Dandora. And now the center is used for part-time tuition and learning for school-going children. It is also a space for interaction for the community, and it is also used by different society groups for their activities. Another project in Africa that we recently supported was in Tunis Village in the city of Al Fayoum in Egypt. Tunis Village has a community of potters, and every year they have a sort of pottery festival. And there we supported an initiative that enhanced a number of streets through physical interventions. So the interventions created stuff like shaded places or places where people could gather. The project that DAIDA supported in South America is quite interesting, I think, for this award ceremony, because that project is in Lima, and this was actually a follow-up of the thesis that was granted the first prize of DAIDA Awards last year. The winner last year wrote a thesis about improving the water supply to the outskirts of Lima, and she was granted a follow-up award to go back to Lima and to implement the findings of her research. So I hope you all have a better idea of what DAIDA does and what we stand for, and also the type of projects that we support. I will now hand the presentation back to Yamini, who will introduce the next guest. Thank you, Yamini.
Thank you for your presentation, Liesl. I'd now like to call upon Ms. Shashikala Venkatraman, Director of My Livable City, to talk about the Knowledge Platform's mission. Shashi has 3.5 decades of experience in consumer insight, strategy, brand development, and operations in India, the UAE, the UK, and the US, and currently offers advisory services to numerous companies. To address the ever-growing importance of delivering on the UN Millennium Goals, she co-founded My Livable City with Shyam Khandekar in 2014. Over to you, Shashi.
Thank you, Yamini. And a very warm welcome to our audience. I would like to introduce My Livable City to you today. We are a global knowledge platform devoted to creating inclusive and sustainable cities. And we focus our attention on themes like affordable housing, sustainability, landscape and infrastructure, smart technologies, etc. Could I have the next slide? Over the last 8 years, we have covered stories from well over 50 countries. Our widespread network of contributors come from over 16 countries. And I'd like you to know that they are all top-notch practicing professionals and academics. So in fact, there is a wealth of knowledge to be gained through them. We also operate as a virtual organization using Mumbai, the Netherlands, and California as hubs. I would definitely invite all of you to engage with My Livable City. You can write for us, you can become subscribers, and participate in our numerous programs. Could I have the next slide? This year, My Livable City is pleased to be hosting the DAIDA Awards. And while we wait anxiously for the announcement of the winners, I'm also pleased to offer each of our 12 finalists an annual subscription to the My Livable City platform. I wish each of you the very best for today and in your careers. Thank you. Over to you, Yamini.
Thank you for your presentation, Shashi. I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Julia Machi. Julia is an international urbanist, lecturer, and program manager on the topics of cities, women empowerment, and sustainable development. Currently, she leads the Cities for Women Global Program at Cities Alliance. She is also an associate at the Institute for Culture and Society in Western Sydney University. Julia's work over the past decade has focused on leading innovative strategies to create inclusive cities, now implemented in more than 20 countries. Over to you, Julia.
Thanks, Yamini. So I'm happy to participate in this event award that promote academic research on making cities more inclusive and equitable. Next slide. This focus I think is very important because cities are far to be a place for everyone. Cities where people go and move in search of job opportunities, education, rights, and freedom. But the way cities are currently planned and built means that those opportunities and privilege are not accessible to everyone. So there are entire social groups that are excluded. Next. And in particular, gender inequalities are built into our cities. We are often used to them, so we don't even recognize them. They are around us, but they are everywhere. So let's, for example, take public space. Women are still less comfortable than men in simply being in public space. And this is due to cultural and social conditioning, but also the real risk of gender violence and sexual harassment in public space. Also in the context of rapid urbanization and informal city growth, women are particularly affected by the lack of access to land, housing, safe basic infrastructure and services. Women are still responsible for collecting water in more than 70% of the households worldwide, so they are more exposed also to health risks and of course time poverty. And also in terms of economic participation, there is still a gender gap. Someone talks about feminization of poverty. So women own less lands, properties, housing, so they are more likely to be evicted and to be exposed to economic and food insecurity. And then, of course, there is a political representation. Next slide. And this is also why the issues haven't been really recognized by the political agenda. Next. Women are not in the formal political leadership, only 13%. Maybe this percentage might change, but really a minority of the mayors are women. So this means that these issues of how to make cities more gender inclusive is not part of the political agenda. Next. But this doesn't mean that women do not participate in politics. Over the last years, I think we are all familiar with the Me Too movement. Women have been coming together, taking the streets, using social media and public space to ask for more rights, more voice. They have been also in the first line of protests in many cities, asking also for more access to services, for a change in politics. Right now I'm in Tunisia, and here women have been key in the revolution, but also after in the democratization process. Next. But women are also leaders in their communities at the grassroots level. So during the COVID emergency, for example, with Cities Alliance, we were working to support the most vulnerable in cities, and we had to go through women's leader in order to reach the most vulnerable. So the women knew where to go and what to do. Next. And in general, I think in our work with slum dwellers, women are always enablers for process of change and urban transformation. So I think the key question is how to build on this potential and make cities more inclusive. Next. And of course, we are all familiar with participatory planning process, and they are crucial to gather citizen input regarding the construction of or governance of urban spaces and the design of livable inclusive cities. However, women are not always present, nor they are sufficiently considered in citizen participation. So that's why with Cities Alliance and our program, we don't simply mainstream gender in urban processes, but we really start with women and adopt a gender perspective in every step of urban project. Next. And this is the urban assessment framework, a process that we always use in our project. So we adopt a gender perspective in engaging with local partners, in collecting data, in co-developing ideas and solutions, in implementing and monitoring projects. We are in the conviction that if you make cities more responsive to women's needs, you make cities better for everyone. Better public transport, more accessible services, better public spaces. So at the end, if we start with women, if we have this lens, we can see cities in a different way. Next. And of course, one of the key issues is data, especially qualitative data. So we have developed and tested different tools, more participatory tools in cities to collect data, to collect experience in a participatory way. So for example, walking with the women's group in a neighborhood to gather their experience, to know where they don't feel safe, where they feel good, and which area do they use the most. And then next, we really developed, next, yes, please. We developed even a city profile that collect all this data. And a city profile shows immediately which policy area are more critical for women engagement in cities. So it can be the economic engagement, the physical space, the social capital, or the institutional political engagement. So this is really a policy-making instrument, and based on that, we start to define our project with our local partners. Next. And then, as I said, now I'm in Tunis, and here we are with the municipality and women from the Medina of Tunis, the historical part of the city. We have developed in a participatory way, collecting data in this way that I've just mentioned, a public space strategy to make public space in the Medina more inclusive. And we are now finalizing different public spaces, focusing on women's needs as a result of this participatory process. Next, in a few weeks, we are finalizing the space. Next. Yeah, you can see here some of the digital maps that we have developed from a gender perspective. So for example, a security map looking at areas where women don't feel safe, don't go. Next. Or for example, the areas from a cultural religious perspective where women go and meet. And we did this from a different perspective. And based on that, we have identified really location for projects. Next. And then we have identified around 10 locations where we have then co-designed with women in the Medina, and now we are implementing and realizing this public space. So soon we will inaugurate the training centers for women, open libraries, gardens, place for exhibit women's handcraft product, workshop space. Next. So this experience, through this experience, I realized also how women knows what they want. No? So we need to give them voices. We need to collect data. We need to collect their experience and really look at the city from a different way, different perspective. And I believe that gender-sensitive planning means really adopting new eyes to look at our cities. And this, probably with also the climate angle, is the most transformative tool to create the cities of the future, cities where every one of us would like to live. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, Yamini.
Thank you, Julia, for your presentation and valuable insights. And thank you very much for being with us today. I'd like to call upon Mr. Shyam Khandekar, founder and chairman of the DAIDA Foundation and co-founder of My Livable City. Shyam is an architect, urban planner, and urban designer who has implemented projects across India and the Netherlands for more than 4 decades. He has lectured extensively at universities and conferences around the world on his designs and idea of making cities livable for all. He is the co-author and editor of 2 books, Affordable Housing and Inclusive Cities, which released in 2019, and Designing for Sustainability Through Upcycling, which released in 2020. Over to you, Shyam.
Thank you, Yamini, and thank you, Julia, for being with us today. And before that, thank you, Shashi and Liesl, for explaining what DAIDA and My Livable City are all about. I'll try to explain, now the students are watching, and I'll try to explain the process which we went through as jury to come to the final conclusions. The task we had this year was daunting, because the number of entries had doubled, and we hope next year there will be even more, but they had already doubled this year. And the jury, which consisted of Melissa Navarra, who teaches sociology at the Ateneo de Manila University in the Philippines, and she has been involved with resettlement programs in professional life in cities, and Claudio Ascioli, who comes originally from Brazil, is based in Netherlands, and has worked in about 30 countries. It's almost impossible to explain his background because it's so diverse. But he has been also worked with organizations such as the United Nations and taught at many universities. Architect planner by profession. We were supported in our effort of judging the entries by Mr. Jose Chong of UN Habitat, who is originally from Peru, is presently works from Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, and he is responsible for the global public space program of the United Nations. So he was there advising us once we had shortlisted. Now let me try to explain to you the process. Can I have the next slide, please? So the point was that we had to come down to the first, second, and third prizes, and we had an additional possibility of giving a follow-up prize for which we had about 5,000 euros available. Can I have the next slide, please? The number of universities which participated, institutions which sent in their entries, was 22. These are the names of all of them. I'd like to thank the organizers of all these universities who took part with us. Thank you for participating. Even if this time you did not make it to the shortlist or the winners, maybe next time you will. So please do continue participating, and please spread the word. And can I have the next slide, please? And if you see that they were the participating institutions from 6 countries, these are the black spots on the global map. But the interesting thing is these days is that wherever you may be based, because of the online possibilities which we have and the amount of information which is available globally, students are able to do their projects in totally different countries. If I compare this to the time when in the early 70s when I graduated, and then later on went on to do my master's in other universities, the possibilities of doing work in other countries were extremely limited. So you clearly see that the students of today are much more socially responsible, and that is something which we think is really very good. And they're not only interested in what is happening in their own countries, but they're taking part in other countries. So you look at the countries here. So while these universities are from these 6 countries, the number of countries where the projects are, they are really in so many other parts of the world. Those are the orange spots. So that made it, of course, makes it more exciting, this prize also. Can I have the next one, please? While judging the entries, we as jury, obviously we looked at the excellence of what was written and sent to us. But we also looked at the mission statement of DAIDA, because it was not only academic excellence, but it was an academic excellence combined with the theme of this year, which is the inclusive city. And the third aspect was very important, was that it had also to fit the mission statement of DAIDA. But that anyway supports the inclusive city idea. So there was a great degree of overlap in it. So Claudia and Melissa were, and myself, 3 of us, we deliberated many times to come down then to a shortlist. And the shortlist is already, it's very creditable. So I'd like to have the next slide, please. So the shortlist which we had is of these 12 participants. Almost as many women as men, if I'm not wrong. Yes, the women outnumber men actually. So Julia, your point is taken, in at least here it's taken without consciously looking at it. Women were just better in this particular case. And we had these shortlisted. And the interesting thing about this shortlist is that not only they are from different countries, but more importantly, they are from all sorts of different master's programs. If you just quickly go through it, you see habitat design, urbanism, landscape and planning, architecture, city and regional planning, environmental planning, all sorts of urban regeneration, urban policy and governance. So it's very interesting to see the different programs through which this goal can be achieved. And these are the students who obviously are on the threshold of their career. So if they feel strongly about these topics on which they are doing the study, we hope that they will carry on further in their career. Now, I'd like to, in any case, so before I go any further about the further selection, how we did it, I'd like to congratulate all the 12 students who are on the shortlist. I'd like to particularly also congratulate their mentors, who obviously have guided them to this excellence. And as Shashi has already told, that they will be getting digital, from My Livable City is going to present them digital subscription for a year to all these 12 students. In the phase after this, these 12 students were asked to make a presentation on 2 different days, 6 students on each day. That was when Mr. Jose Chong of UN Habitat was with us. He listened to those presentations and helped us also decide the final, take the final call. And that was difficult. And we actually, from the shortlist of 12, we first came to a shortlist of 6, while we had only 3 prizes to give. We deliberated then again as jury and came to the conclusion that 2 out of those 6 we cannot afford to give them the award, but we would like to give them what we would say a special mention. So I'd like to now have the next slide to tell you two special mentions. So these are the ones who just did not make it to the winners. So can I have the next slide, please? And that is Vipul Kumar of Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, and Himani Chahal of Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi, India, both from India in this case. Akash, you can let them in if they can join us live. It will be great. They are there, okay. The topics which these two students chose are interesting by themselves. I'd just like to spend 1 minute, half a minute on each of them. Vipul talked about the issue of land pooling and in peri-urban areas, that when cities expand, what does it do really? How do people who live there on small parcels of land doing farming or agricultural issues, and when their land is appropriated, do they get enough benefits of what is happening in the city? And actually, in spite of all sorts of government policies, his conclusion was that because these people are not that well informed, they often fall prey to other people. So he's suggesting some other improvements in that process. So it was a research thesis from a very well-known institute in India, Thesis, Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Himani Chahal, as a designer, by the way, both of these, this now suddenly the slide has come in, so I'll come to Himani for a moment. Both these students, because we cannot offer them any other prize, we are offering them this book that which is on affordable housing and inclusive cities. We'll send it to them to their addresses in India. Can I have the previous slide, please, where Himani Chahal was there? Yes. So Himani Chahal was a design thesis which is based on the regeneration of open spaces in Noida, which is just adjacent to Delhi, a new city, relatively new city, and how to make these public spaces available to all. So it was a design thesis. So these are the two. Congratulations to both of you for having the special mention, and congratulations to both your mentors. Can I have the next slide, please? And the next one. So we'll send you. Then we were left with 4 students. And we decided to we came to the conclusion that we had a clear winner. We had a clear second prize and a joint third prize. So there are 2 who have got the joint third prize, who will be sharing that €4,000 amount. And the first of these 2 joint winners is, can I have the next slide, please? Is Ramona Scheffer of Technical University of Delft. Very interesting study on the housing for migrant workers in Oman, where she explains how they are actually set up very often in very lonely labor camps where the living conditions are not good. And she tries to explain how integrating them with the local population will lead to a much better result. She will get a chance to explain her thesis herself, to present it to you after my speech, together with the other joint winner of the third prize. Can I have the next slide, please? Interestingly, also from the same university, Technical University of Delft, and that is Zhuo Meng Xia. I hope I'm speaking your name well, Zhuo. I am not very certain. A very interesting study about an architecture of enablement, about how in Addis Ababa, instead of letting the government housing, which is very uniform and which is industrialized and just placed there for people to occupy, and in which they cannot be very happy and will not have a sense of ownership and pride, Zhuo Meng Xia has combined the bottom-up and top-down approaches, together with a research which was done by Professor Habraken in the 70s about how you can have a system of structures in which people can do their own infill. So very interesting study, and based in Ethiopia. So he's the other joint winner. Congratulations to you, Zhuo Ming, and congratulations, of course, to your professors who have guided you to this excellent result. Then we were left with the second and the first prize. So let's go to the second prize, which is a prize money of €5,000. And we had a clear second prize winner, really. A few points ahead of the third prize winners and a few points behind the first prize winner. And this was, can I have the next slide, please? Or is Natalia Recalde Miranda of Catholic University Leuven in Belgium. So congratulations, Natalia, and congratulations to your professors, Kelly Shannon and Bruno de Mulder, for a brilliant study, really, which starts with taking an area of 500 kilometers by 500 kilometers, and then goes down to the level where the indigenous population is offered the possibility of a perspective which is really worth living. It is called Reversing Landscape. It is based in South America. She'll also get a chance to present this to you. What really struck me about this study was that how in less than, I think her total study is only 92 pages, in which the text is very limited. But she starts with this 500 kilometers by 500 kilometers and comes down to this solution, deals with all the possible problems you can think of, and tries to give a solution to it. Brilliant in the conciseness with which it is actually dealt with. Because I think most of us would have needed 300-400 pages, if at all if we could have explained it. So congratulations, Natalia. Can I have the next one, please? So then we had the first prize. And the first prize, actually, there was a clear winner. And this clear winner happened after we had 3, 4, 5 candidates in the short list initially already who were looking like prospective winners. And after the presentation, the final first, second, third, the order was decided actually. And the first prize goes to, can I have the next one, please? To Gauri Satam from LS Raheja School of Architecture, Mumbai, India. Interestingly, her study also deals with reversing the landscape in a way what actually Natalia did in South America. She does at a smaller scale in Mumbai, about a fishing village, a village for the fishing people who fished for centuries, and which has been taken over, rolled over, as it were, because of the big city of Mumbai, which has just sort of taken over all the villages. And she tries to restore the landscape and identity, not only identity of the landscape, but the identity of the people, because the identity of the people is attached to the identity of the landscape in their case, in many cases, actually. So she tries to combine the two. So it's interesting that the first and the second prize go to 2 studies on 2 different continents, but dealing with very broad issues. So congratulations, Gauri, and congratulations to your mentor, Shilpa Bakshi Chandavarkar, for guiding her to this excellent result. You will also get a chance now to present your study. We had, next to this, a follow-up prize of €5,000, which was available. And the idea was that, like, we were looking for a project which actually something could be done on the ground. And after due deliberations, the jury has decided to give that amount also to Gauri Satam. We will discuss this further with her about how we think as DAIDA it could be used, because the follow-up scheme which she has suggested is very broad. I think she'll have to probably narrow it down, but that's a discussion which we'll have separately with her. But I would like to announce that she will get, next to the €6,000 first prize, 5,000 also for the follow-up program. I would like to state one more thing before I stop and say my small word of thanks to all of you for participating, to the institutions, but to Inlcusive City for helping us through all of this, being a partner in this. What we are going to do is that Inlcusive City runs a magazine, and the top 6 entries, which means the first, second, third prize winners, plus the two special mentions, Vipul Kumar and Himani Chahal. We will reserve pages in our next issue of My Livable City to have concise articles on their thesis. The editorial team of My Livable City will get in touch with you to make sure that in the next 2 months, you send us the right information in the right format so that we can publish it. That much for now. I hope I have not forgotten anything, but if I have, please excuse me. If I have not, I'll simply thank you and congratulate you all and hope that you all have a brilliant career. Look forward to talking to some of you separately. Thank you so much. Thank you, Yamini. Please, yours. The floor is yours.
Thank you for your presentation, Shyam, and congratulations to all the winners. This was a fierce competition, and congratulations are in order for all 12 shortlisted candidates. I'd like to invite Ramona Scheffer, joint third prize winner from TU Delft, Netherlands, to present her work. Please strictly limit your time to 7 minutes. Over to you, Ramona.
Thank you very much for the introduction and for awarding me and my thesis, the Workers Madinat, and also congratulations to all the other winners. I'm very grateful for this award. So I want to give you a little insight about my project, the Workers Madinat, housing for migrant workers in Oman. My interest in this topic originated from my research and working experience in Muscat, Oman 4 years ago. The thing is that in Oman, isolated and separated from the local population, 100,000 of migrant workers from mainly South Asia live in labor camps across the country. They make up an important part of the population also because they're indispensable for the local economic growth, but they're often housed in inappropriate conditions. And as you can imagine, this has even worsened now with the coronavirus. So there is still a need for more migrant worker accommodations, which is also seen by the Muscat municipality. However, the concept of creating temporary container camps remains the same. So in order to kind of like create a counterexample of these rising labor cities, this project examines how to make a more resilient neighborhood for workers that can benefit both the local and migrant population. So what I did was I located 91 labor camps in the Muscat capital area and made some observations. For example, the size of the camps from small camps of 20 workers to big camps of 5,000 workers that are all surrounded by walls. And although they have a very temporary construction, in reality, they are quite the opposite of temporary. So I was looking at, basically I wanted to go back to Oman to do my investigations, but because of the COVID-19 restrictions, that wasn't possible. So I started interviewing workers on Facebook, and I used other social media platforms to get photo and video material and talk to workers and get their opinion. So even TikTok has become one of the sources for my information. I was able to identify patterns of inhabitation that reoccurred in different camps and created an ethnographic study that would capture these research outcomes, such as overcrowding of the rooms or also overheating dorms. The lack of storage space, which is why the beds are stacked on top of bricks, but also the lack of designated laundry space, so laundry becomes this permanent feature in the camps. Other small elements like a little threshold in front of the cabin so the workers have space to change their shoes is actually something I thought was worth preserving. So in this manner, I identified those patterns and diminished if they are worth preserving or insufficient, as well as social spaces, religious rituals, now the presentation set, and aspects of mobility, such as the workers living on site or them having to cross the highway by foot, which is obviously dangerous. So at the moment, the camps are located in the urban fringe, and I think this is still for a design a good location. And the concept basically implies that the workers would move with the growing city further outside in the periphery, and then make space for mid and higher income groups. So this actually makes it a feasible project for investors, but also a more resilient neighborhood in the urban tissue. So if you look at the site, we can see that it's located at the intersection of a major highway and a popular recreational area, which is the Wadi Al Hud. And you can see that there is a souk, a temple, and a mosque that also is supposed to address different neighborhoods to create a common ground for not only the workers, but everyone living in the city. You can see that the site is located, is divided in 6 neighborhoods with different social spaces that contain sports facilities, resting areas, but also neighborhood mosques and temples. Also for the workers to create different communities on different levels and identify with their surrounding. So I tried to create different synergies from what I found out in my investigations. So now the workers actually have designated space to hang their laundry, and not only that, but it also enhances the cooling of the building because of the evaporation, but also a threshold for the workers to put their shoes, to meet with their colleagues in the streets, to dine and rest in the shade, but also to have their individual space, which can be important at night for their individual routine and also religious practices. Different social spaces and sports facilities, as well as space for religious practices. And elements concerning mobility like shuttle buses, but also individual bicycle rides. So with the time, I foresee that the neighborhood will change and adapt to different income groups, which also includes a more diverse society, including women and children. So this is something that is already foreseen in the design, in the public spaces, but also in the compounds that change from shared flats to 1 to 2 story apartments and townhouses, to even villas with parking lots for the cars, which are necessary. And with this, I hope to create a more resilient neighborhood for everyone to find their space in the city. And I'm very much hoping that also this approach of creating this ethnographic study can actually have a leverage in making this a more known problem that is not only in Oman, but also in other Gulf states, and also not just for the construction labor camps or industrial labor camps, but also in terms of Olympic cities. So I want to thank you very much again for believing in this project and the leverage it can have. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Ramona, and congratulations on such a well-thought-out project. I'd like to invite Zuoming Xia, joint third prize winner, also from TU Delft, to present his work. Again, please limit your time to 7 minutes. Over to you, Zuoming.
Thank you very much for this award, and congratulations to everybody who participated in this very worthy and rewarding scheme. Thank you. So my presentation is about a participatory housing process for Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and it's called An Architecture of Enablement. I believe this looks familiar to many of us, and it represents the problem that we're all trying to tackle. My project takes place in Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, where the authorities have chosen a short-term solution to its problems of rapid urbanization. It's a system that favors efficiency over sensitivity, standardization over flexibility, and homogeneous illusion over a heterogeneous reality. These drawings depict an already implemented grand housing scheme with a repetitive cookie-cutter approach of identical condominium units surrounded by a sea of neglected space. And for Addis Ababa and many other cities like it in the global south, is this the only option? In my research, I'm trying to find an alternative system of housing production, and one that focuses on process rather than product, with user participation at its core. And today I would like to use my design to convey 3 principles that I think are important in designing a participatory housing process. The first of these principles I want to put forward is called levels of association. And I think in the subconscious of all dwellers, there exists different familiarities with different scales of space. Take a room, a house, a street, a neighborhood. And I think tapping into this can enhance the dweller's sense of ownership of their spaces and encourage cooperation. So here I've designed a building for multiple close-knit families, and perhaps they're even relatives, extended families of each other, and they do not mind sharing much of the terrace spaces and much of the outdoor spaces as well. And this is the pavilion typology. The next is called the row house, and this can accommodate more families, but this time with a greater sense of privacy between them. The courtyard typology can house even more families, but in smaller, more affordable dwelling units, and that look onto a shared public space. Stack units on top of each other, and you arrive at another typology, the tower, and one that has in contemporary times become a sort of aspirational mode of living. Bringing all these typologies together, and you make this dwelling cluster, the next scale up from the building. The cluster allows different income groups to coexist and to cross-pollinate. And then finally, stringing many of these clusters together, you arrive at the highest level, the supercluster, where a central linear public space links all these clusters together. And this is my prototype of a neighborhood that responds to different levels of association. And due to the flexibility of this system, no 2 buildings or 2 clusters are alike. Next, I want to talk about incremental growth, as it goes hand in hand with participation. Dwellers are not going to all make the decisions together all at once in the same moment. And so participation does not occur spontaneously. And what you need is a clear structure in order to define what dwellers can have control over. Therefore, the first piece of architecture that is built is the support, which is made of mass-produced concrete components. And then begins the infill process, where local architects work with families and local contractors, start to enclose space and create homes. Over many months, the infill will become more mature, and over many years, some parts may even be demolished or changed and suit the ever-changing needs of the family that occupies it. And as mentioned before, this does come from the research of the SAR, Haarbraken, and others, such as Frans van der Werf, who I had the delight of meeting and who also was a big input in my project. Incremental growth also occurs on an urban level, in the neighborhood completed in phases, and the dwelling clusters are able to organically mold around existing buildings, maintaining the existing street pattern and existing nodes and gathering spaces. Development of the central spine starts after the entire section of the city is completed, and each sector has its own sense of identity due to the common spaces inside it. And finally, heterogeneity, which in many ways is the end goal of my design project and what we were trying to do. It is to make housing that is sensitive to our many differences and housing that ultimately serves us better. And here I reiterate that heterogeneity cannot be expected to suddenly exist out of nothing, as it requires an initial design, in this case, the support, and that defines the rules of the game. On an urban scale, heterogeneity comes from not wiping out the existing settlements completely, but embracing its irrationalities, its quirks, and its character. And this is accompanied by an urban grain that is complex but yet defined. And here you can see the front of buildings being activated in a pedestrianized zone, and that may give rise to a market. Or at the same time, a series of allotments, food stalls, shops, a large tree where friends can meet, or spaces where children can play. Where all kinds of customization, additions happen to the dwellings on either side, and even provide space for existing dwellings to extend into as a result of densification. By contrast, the vehicular corridor services the dwellings and connects it to the rest of the city. And the facade facing the road is much more regimented. Kitchens, bathrooms expel their waste into the communal collection pipe, and the road loops at the end, creating another moment of intensity, giving rise to more shops and public functions. And so hopefully through this explorative hypothetical neighborhoods, I've demonstrated that there is an alternative to disastrous mass housing, which we face all around the world. It is a bottom-up approach that considers the voice of individuals, families, and communities. But I think at the same time, it's also a top-down strategy, where building components can be made at a scale that can combat citywide issues of urbanization. And it results in a product that is rich, but more importantly, a process that is repeatable in different contexts. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentations, Wo-Ming, and congratulations on a fantastic project. I'd now like to invite Natalia Ricalde Miranda, second prize winner from KU Leuven, Belgium, to present her work. Please strictly limit your time to 7 minutes. Over to you, Natalia.
Hello. First of all, thank you very much to the DAIDA Awards and to all the jury, and a special thanks to my promoters, Kelly Shannon and Bruno de Mulder. My thesis is called Reversing Landscapes, Regenerative Forest Urbanism in the Guarani Territory. And it's a product of a one-year research at KU Leuven in Belgium. So the starting point of this research is trying to understand a territory beyond the geopolitical boundaries by a cartography study of the ecological and cultural layers that conform a landscape that I call the Guarani territory, and that it was inhabited by a multiple of native cultures encompassed under the name Guarani, and that is composed of La Plata Basin, the Guarani Aquifer, and the Atlantic forest that used to cover most of the territory located in the South American continent between Paraguay, Brazil, and Argentina. This territory not only shares a pre-colonial and colonial past, but also current dynamics and conflicts, and a crisis because of the massive deforestation of 90% of the Atlantic forest in a period of 5 decades, and the continuous deforestation because of the expansion of what I call the agribusiness of extraction, or the monoculture of soy and other transgenic seeds that creates a socio-ecological crisis by the depletion of soils, the contamination of water, the continuous deforestation, and also the migration, the expulsion of Guarani indigenous communities and rural peasants from their lands and their migration to urban areas. And all of this is aggravated by the climate crisis and the increased intensity of floods, of droughts, and of heat waves. So the next step in this research was to focus in a strategic point called the Triple Frontera, or urban metropolitan area composed by 3 different countries, Paraguay, Brazil, and Argentina, located in the heart of the Guarani territory that was a strategic point that which started the transformation of this whole landscape. So by the study of satellite images, I studied the process of deforestation that was accompanied with the urban growth and the creation of massive infrastructure like dams and bridges that foster this whole deforestation process. So for the design part, I decided to focus on the Paraguayan side of this Triple Frontera and answer the question, what urban design strategies can favor recovery of damaged landscapes and a healthy relationship between biodiversity and human growth in the Paraguayan side of the Triple Frontera. So this area that you can see here is located in the urban-rural fringe of the metropolitan area. And the starting point of the analysis of the territory was a socio-ecological perspective, which means that I studied the topography, the remaining forest fragments, and the land use of this area, and also the location of existing Guarani communities in the metropolitan area. So what you can see in yellow is the expansion of the soybean and agribusiness, and in dark gray, the urban growth and sprawl. This is a very dynamic territory that is changing rapidly, and the existing remaining biodiversity is in danger. And also the urban growth produced by the rural migrants. So the proposal is to create a regenerative forest belt, or an ecological corridor, taking advantage of existing forest fragments and open spaces along the valleys to create transformation process where empty plots and existing soy land is transformed into productive forests that integrate settlement and production. As a next step, I focused on a strategic area next to the new bridge that is going to be built in between Paraguay and Brazil, and that is going to have a very big impact in the development of this area. So here we can see how this area is very rich in forests, in waterfalls, and indigenous communities territories, but at the same time, the soy agribusiness consumed the whole land, and also continues consuming and surrounding indigenous communities territories. So my goal is to reverse the landscape deterioration by creating reforestation and restoration processes that integrate agroecosystems, production, settlement, and reforestation for an holistic living that follows the traditional ways of living of the people and their relationship with the land. And a proposed strategy to achieve this is the creation of agroecotourism farms and the reintegration of native species of these forests that have a high production value. And so by taking advantage of the scenery and the topography of the land, it's possible to create reforestation strategies that integrate production and settlement and integrate Guarani communities in this whole process of transformation in order to achieve balanced landscapes. So this research, through the study of different issues on very different scales, is a base that allows for the creation of policies and further research in the possibilities of having an ecological and biodiversity perspective into the landscape that integrates not just humans, but also ecology, and try to create a balanced landscape to thrive. And these are the sustainable development goals that are mainly involved in this research, but of course, all of them are related. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Natalia, and congratulations on a wonderful project. I'd like to invite Gauri Satam, the first prize winner from LS Raheja School of Architecture, Mumbai, India, to present her winning entry. Please strictly limit your time to 7 minutes. Over to you, Gauri.
Hi, good afternoon all. This is Gauri Satam. My thesis is a landscape thesis with Masters of Landscape from LSR, that is LSR College in Mumbai. My thesis topic is restoring Charkop's intertidal wetlands while reinstating the socio-cultural landscape of its Kolivada. So understanding the setting of Mumbai, Mumbai has always been an estuarine setting, which has has been a landscape of negotiations between land and water, be it tidal or seasonal variations. And these variations have been best understood by the aboriginals, that is the Kolis or the fisher folks of Mumbai. Once a community of about 40 fishing villages along the coast of Mumbai. Today it's about 14 of which actually practice. One of them is the case of Charkop Kolivada. Charkop, just going over the history of Charkop. Charkop was an aboriginal fishing village of about 75 acres in the Manori Creek of Mumbai. In 1940s, it was the Britishers who brought in the Kandivali industrial estate here, wherein they built some mud bund walls and filled a bit of land to create their industrial estate. In 1985, these mud bund walls were further filled in by the MHADA, which is the Maharashtra Housing and Urban Development Authority, which wanted to create more affordable housing for the city in terms of LIG and EWS. And these intertidal wetlands were filled to create those affordable housings for the city. Today, the setting of Charkop is somewhat on these lines. where the fishing village is today somewhat like this, an island, yet completely developed around it. So today the island is surrounded by the intertidal wetlands as well as the coastal wetlands. So the coastal wetlands have been recognized and protected, while the intertidal wetlands are yet alienated and neglected, just like the Kolivada, which is within it. So my thesis intent was seen in two layers. First is the ecological layer, and the second is the socio-cultural layer in terms of the place and the people. So the ecological layer was firstly to establish the importance of Charkop's intertidal wetlands, assess the threats, revive the wetland ecology, regain the lost urbanism, resilience. In terms of the socio-cultural layer, it was about understanding the rich intangible heritage of the Kolivada, assess the needs of the community, reinstate a sense of identity within this Kolivada, and come up with a productive, participative, and inclusive landscape. A landscape of negotiation, starting with my first layer of place, understanding the wetlands. Charkop's setting is that of an intertidal zone, wherein during the 2005 floods, these wetlands played a very important role in being the sponges to absorb the excessive rains of the floods of 2005. However, these sponges have reduced over time, as you can see in this image. Zooming into my specific site from 2004 to 2019, you can see the visible reduction in these sponges, wherein these sponges, these intertidal wetlands have been slowly converted into concretized nalas, have been encroached upon, are undergoing ecological degradation, a disconnect with the creek, encroachments, and there has been a social neglect towards it. So however, these intertidal wetlands play a very important role in being the ecosystem, in providing ecosystem services for this region. These wetlands play a very important role in terms of climate change and the sea level rise as well. Coming to the layer of the people of the Charkop Kolivada and understanding their practices, Charkop Kolivada was an artisanal fishing village within the intertidal zone. So very basic kind of a fishing used to happen here, which was their main source of income. Apart from fishing, it was farmlands and some extensive landscapes of toddy palms, which were also a part of their landscape. Thus, this Kolivada has a very rich, intangible cultural heritage within its native landscape. So the Kolivada today, however, looks somewhat on these lines, where it's still a close-knit community of 3,000 fisher folks. However, the lanes are very narrow, there's no vehicular access, threatened by encroachments along its fringes and alienated from the surrounding. With certain hints of productive landscapes still found within the Kolivada. I've also tried to understand the rich culture of this region, where I've tried to do an annual festivity mapping, trying to understand the rich, diverse, and intangible culture of its community, where the culture is the community, while interacting with these fisher folks, is a vibrant, undocumented, and a dying cultural heritage that we have. Just taking the case of one fish market and trying to understand the space transformations that happen, the multiplicity, adaptability that you see in a landscape, how a small space like this transforms over weeks, over seasons in the Indian context. However, this landscape has some redundant open spaces which can be definitely worked upon. So although this region has just about 3% of open spaces to itself, so which I have worked upon. Another important aspect was that of the coastal road, which is happening along the coast of Mumbai, which is actually going to strangulate this village to a great extent. So the issues with the Kolivada were its identity crisis, the alienation, the disconnect with land and livelihood that is happening. So there were evident threats in terms of ecological and sociocultural layers. So coming to my thesis intent was about, again, the place and the people. So restoring the intertidal wetlands, creating an urban resilience, preserving native biodiversity, restoring indigenous identity, productive participative landscapes, and bringing people together. So the scales of interventions were again 3, from a bigger scale of 27 acres of intertidal wetlands to reviving existing community spaces to reimagining the sociocultural nodes. So now I have increased the amount of percentage from 3 to 13% of openscapes. So I have also questioned the whole idea of redefining the idea of neighborhood parks. Why would they be generic? Why can't they be more functional, ecologically sensitive, and sponges of resilience? So this is how it's happened. A stormwater management in terms of collecting, holding, infiltrating, swelling, shrinking, and draining the landscape. So drawing the wetlands and understanding the zoning, also understanding the salinity of the land, and coming up with a master plan which kind of understands the landscape, which is more productive, which understands tidal variations, which understands seasonality, which where we have productive landscapes of vegetable farming, oyster, mud crab farming, understanding the grasses, the native biodiversity, having islands for birding, restoring native woodlands, and making the wetlands accessible, giving a physical connect, and having many more pause points, which would be much more meaningful. In terms of the second scale, which I have dealt with, is about okay, just half a minute, please. Thank you. So the second scale is of an existing Maidan, which is a Dingeshwar Maidan, where I have come up with a landscape which would be much more equitable, gender neutral, inclusive, and participative, in terms of making it more adaptable, celebrative, and equitable. In terms of scale number 3, which is the smallest scale, it is about reimagining this whole landscape as an art district, like a living museum of indigeneity, using native material palette, native plants, reviving cultural heritage, and Kolivada as an art district, basically. So hence, weaving these 3 scales together, this is the landscape of joining the dots of a landscape of negotiations, from a thesis design intent to that of implementation. And this is how I have scaled or phased my project with the 3 scales and the 3 SDGs that I have addressed. So thank you. So landscape of negotiations between place and people of that of Charkop Kolivada. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Gauri, and congratulations on an amazing project.
Thank you.
With this, we come to the end of the awards program. Sensitive, intelligent designs are the need of the hour, and the presentations we saw today were incredibly inspiring. Thank you to the winners for presenting their work to us. Thank you to all our viewers, shortlisted candidates, and speakers for being here with us from across the world. Thank you to the organization team of My Livable City, Mithali Chaudhary, Seema Taneja, Ashim Manna, and Sailesh Ghilani. Last but not least, we'd like to thank the tech team, Dreamcast, for making this happen. Please show us the next slide. Before we close, I'd like to announce the competition theme for 2022, which is climate change. All announcements are hosted on My Livable City's website. Please do have a look and please spread the word. And please show us the last slide. For any further questions, please get in touch with My Livable City. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next year.